I'm shooting this video again. So I saw Rambo 3 the other night, maybe last night, and I see that, Fina, I'm gonna get underneath here. I wanna sit here, okay. There's a dog under the table, and she always barks when I get too close. This might be good enough. Yeah. Right here, Fina. There. Rambo, yes. So I was watching Rambo 3 the other night. I saw that it's a political commentary. It has a political commentary on the Soviets invading Afghanistan in the 80s, where the Soviets are invading Afghanistan and there's a US military team that goes there and the Soviets capture them. They captured the Rambo's commander. And so the commander is trapped in Afghanistan, and so Rambo comes along and he goes to rescue him. And there's this mission, and he rescues them, and then he helps the Afghan rebels who are there, and they help him save his commander, and then he helps them by defeating the Soviets who are there, blah. Lots of things happen. And at the end of the movie, it says this film is dedicated to the gallant people of Afghanistan, because at that time they were being invaded by the Soviets. They held military influence over it, military control. And then, well, 20 years after that, the country of Afghanistan was being invaded by the US. They were also exerting military control, influence over the country. They still are. Today it's April 2021. And I saw how easy it is to summon the concept of hypocrisy here, where a person could easily say, only 20 years ago, the US was saying that the people of Afghanistan should not be subdued by other nations, which was happening in the 80s, when only 20 years later, the US is again invading the country, but on their own terms. And that brought me to think that the voices of a country are not coherent. They are different. They are not saying the same thing. Rambo 3 is an expression of filmmakers and actors and directors and producers of the time of the 80s. And the military actions of the US in the past decade and 2 decades had been the act of completely different people, completely different, in a completely different context. And I realized that these comments of hypocrisy, all they point at is towards an internal incoherence of a system. In this case, the system is the US. And there are multiple voices within the US. And in this particular context, in a nation invading a nation exerting military control over another country, like Afghanistan, is rejected by some, like the filmmakers, and is accepted by some, like the military in the US. Of course, this even happened at different times. So all you could say about that is that at different times, different voices in the US were incoherent. They had different directions. Now, even if this were happening like at the exact same time, the concept I see is incoherence. The voices within us are not one single unified path that we're taking in existence, in life, where not all the citizens of a country are have the same ideal, have the same goals in mind, not even the same ways to do it. There's conflict all the time. And so such a commentary of saying, oh, that's hypocritical, that's fake, you liars, you were saying that that's bad, but then 20 years later you're doing the exact same thing again. The flaw I see in that statement is that you are doing that. Like, who you? Those filmmakers or the government or the military? That's not a one single you, that's different yous. That's different entities. There is incoherence in a nation that's not unknown. And then I realized and remembered that we also, each of us humans, we have multiple voices within us. We have many voices. As a matter of example, I know that there are different parts of my body that say different things, that they want different things. Mostly because they're focused on different things. Like my belly can be hungry. While my throat might feel blocked. All these are just examples of different signals that are produced. No, not really different parts of my body, but different parts of my being, certainly, can have conflicting directions. Like, for example, I have a housemate, and she is a woman. And there have been times when my body has been attracted to her and has signaled me to seek out a deepening of an intimate connection between the two of us. I get a little bit aroused. And then that's the path that my body's asking me to go. However, when I ask my mind and my emotions, they're not pointing in that direction. They can be just like, they're not pointing in that direction. My mind in particular knows it is clear that it does not want to go in that direction. It does not want to develop an intimate relationship with my housemate. It just doesn't. Does not seem like something I want to do, not in my interests. And I realize, and my mind knows that once a sexual connection is initiated, a dynamic is different. There's two phases, pre-sex and post-sex, or even sex-ish acts and post-sexish acts. there's a pretty almost palpable threshold past which there seems to be no return. And my mind knows that the pre-sex space is more stable in a housemate relationship, and it's more like what I would like to do than the post-sex phase. Post-sex phase. And because I know that, because my mind knows that, then there's a conflict. But I don't do it. I don't seek to go in that direction. And so there is a conflict. And so while I might have resonant signals in my physical body of attraction towards her, my thoughts think, keep distance. One part of my body, one part of my being wants to move forward, the other one keeps some resistance towards that direction. And when I ask my emotions are, they're not in there. It doesn't resonate with that. And so what I find is that inside of me, I have an incoherence of voices. They're not all going in the same direction. One of them actually is, they're keeping each other in balance. One of them is holding a safeguard. My body's like going in that direction. My mind's like, okay, quiet. Stay put. It's good for now. And well, I can get to choose then. Incoherence. The issue is that at times we are incoherent within ourselves of what we want to do or what we feel. Because we feel many, many things. Many, many things. Because I feel I can feel pleasure and sadness at the same time. There are times when my mind is excited and my body's tired. There are times when my body's excited and my mind is tired. There are times when my emotions are activated and they ask my body to move, and my body's like, not now. I'm happy being where I am. So I just see this concept of coherence within oneself. And what I'm seeing is that the complexities of life, they seem intricately linked to these incoherences, to this difference of voices. It's not, my tea is a bit too unboiling. It's not boiling. The complexities in life seem to arise not from, completely aligned intent, but rather from that difference of voices and their attempt to find a solution, to find what encompasses them both. And in that flow, life develops. There are conflicts and there are problems, and we go out and the famous hero's journey, and we go and find the problem. What's the problem? We have a problem, and so we go into the unknown and have our adventures and find our problems and our enemies, and then we realize, oh, that was the problem. It's not that hard, and then we learn something moral from it. Something that helps develop, and we realize, oh, the answer was all within ourselves. It was in you all along. Was that from Dorothy? Wizard of Oz? It's still not hot enough. And then you come back, and then you have learned something new, and you have completed the cycle of the hero's journey, and then you are, well, you continue living. And it's that initial discrepancy between the voice's intent that caused that problems. There are because that's all what a problem is. It's some kind of conflict. The struggle to find coherence between different voices enriches life. Enriches life. The stereotypical unnamed aim in most situations is finding that thing that saves us, that thing that holds the solution to our problems. That thing. What is that thing? That is that thing. And it actually has a manifestation in films. There's this item called a MacGuffin. Anyway, MacGuffin. I think this is the first time I pause and unpause a video on recording. MacGuffin. There's this concept of the MacGuffin in films where they make a thing and everyone's looking for the thing. And the competing teams are looking for the thing, and it can be a briefcase or an envelope or a precious gem, ancient relic, Indiana Jones' Lost Ark, or the suitcase with the information everyone's looking for, the nuclear codes. And the interesting thing in what I understand from MacGuffins is it doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't really matter what it is that people are looking for. Like usually, okay, there's the context. So nuclear codes could be a thing, or the ancient relic can be a thing. And the issue is they're all trying to get it because of whatever reason. It doesn't really matter. But the point is that it drives the plot forward. It gives a motivation to everyone involved. And I understand that among people who make films, they recognize that the MacGuffin it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just something that that drives the plot forward. And I see at times people reach towards something. I want to reach. Always finding this thing that's on the horizon, that's over there, that I know that if I go get it, if I take that, if I find it, then I find satisfaction. And that seems to me to be an embodiment of really all problems and all solutions we find to them in life. There is a problem. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't matter. The issue is a problem. There's a conflict between something and something. It can be inner voices, it can be inner and outer voices, it can just be outer voices. There must be some inner voice, because otherwise there's no motivation for me. If other people are speaking and that doesn't influence me, then I don't care what they're saying. If it influences me, then it gives me some kind of conflict, because I have a voice that conflicts with other voices, and that needs to go get resolved. And action movies are all about external conflicts, and more independent and cerebral movies could be more about inner voices. Romantic stories often have a lot of inner voices. Can, depending on how deep they go. Of like, oh, I should leave him, but I should be loyal, but no, but I feel happier with this other person. It doesn't matter what the problem is. It drives us. At times it's thought that the ideal is to not have problems, to have everything solved, to not need to do anything. Oh, I'm just here. Oh, everything's good. Perfect. Everything's good. No problems. Like the whole concept of wealthy people being in an ideal position is that they have everything. They have no material needs. And that's silently considered an ideal in the society I know. It seems to me, though, that wealthy people still consider they have problems. Everyone thinks they have problems. And all their problems cause them to move, cause them to act, cause them to struggle and continue moving on life. My opinion is that the ideal of having no problems it's an illusion. It's a mirage. In this life, it's a mirage. Achieving a state of no problems implies achieving a state of undrive. There is no drive to do anything. Because even the attractions that we feel, I like this, I like that, those attractions, they are problems in their moment, because, there's an apple there. I want that apple. I do not have that apple. Hence, there's a conflict between what I feel right now, which is a desire to possess that apple, and the state of the world is, I do not possess that apple. And then I have a drive to move towards the state of me possessing that apple. And then I move and, that's where I'm directed, because that's where my attraction is. And then, okay. And then at some point I achieve and succeed, and then I possess the apple. The apple. And I have it. And then now I feel satisfaction. And I'm like, yes, I feel the satisfaction. And it feels good. And that's, in my opinion, what feels when a conflict is resolved. This feeling of dissolution of the conflict. There was one voice. There were conflicting voices, conflicting states of the world. And once it's achieved, then what I imagine is that there's like excess energy that gets output like a chemical reaction. It's like, oh, there was this potential, and then it gets joined, and there's some solution. There's a solution of the problem, and then that brings up energy. Maybe it's like warmth, and like it's an exothermic reaction of energy, and then I feel like pleasure, because I have the apple. I have it. I possess it. Problems are the drives that move us forward in life. And I feel to them it is worthy to offer gratitude